Hey guys, welcome back. It's Sports with Mono and Mono. I'm Jim, and
I am Steve. Welcome, everybody.
so let's jump right into the fray here. I guess obviously the biggest story in baseball was
Bryce Harper signing with the Philadelphia Phillies for 13 years and $330 million.
I think we talked on last show that we were leaning toward it looked like pretty much like the Phillies were the lead, but he met with the Giants and so forth. But one thing I'm a little confused about: what's this 13 years thing? I mean, I don't get it. I mean, okay, is that the only way he was going to get 330 million? I mean, but that's even less than Machado's getting, isn't it? I mean,
Well, I mean, Machado signed for 10 years, 300. Harper, 13, 330.
which is less than 30 mil a year if you do the
But
math.
Boris, his agent Scott Boros, obviously was the preeminent agent out there. He's been making the rounds today on the interview circuit. His patented answer is that Harper, and not only is his contract worth 330, but he has no trade clause.
Of course,
He's
that's
got no
standard.
outs. And you know what? Boros is saying that Harper wanted all that. That he didn't want to uproot, go anywhere else. He was all in on Philly, and
Well, normally it's the no trade for the player can veto any trade. This is a team no trade.
this is a team, and Harper was down with it, a no trade. So we talked about that he's 26 years old. So you're talking to age 39. I think it's going to be one of those contracts again where if he breaks down at age 34, 35,
which,
the
which
Phillies are going to be stuck paying a lot of money on the back end of the deal. However, to get him, I think the Phillies were up front from day one that they were going to open the cash vaults, and did not plan on being outbid on him. But like you said, he's a Las Vegas kid. He's from the West Coast, and when the Dodgers and the Giants started sniffing,
yeah.
there were talks that they were going to offer, a short-term deal, meaning 5 years for big dough. Maybe about 38 to $40 million a year.
Okay, which makes to me more sense
Right.
than the
I
Phillies. I'm just a little confused by this 13-year deal. I mean, Major League Baseball contracts are guaranteed,
you know,
so the money wasn't an issue.
nope.
And now I mean, are we really expecting him to put 13 more years in Major League Baseball as one of the top players in the game?
I just think that the Phillies are all in on Harper. He's 26, like we just said a couple times, and they're again, it's a guaranteed contract, and all baseball contracts are guaranteed. And listen, this is the Phillies making the decision. Like we talked about a week ago, the owner flew out there, and obviously they
Oh, they were
went
hot to
over the
trot on
numbers.
him for forever, though. But I'm just so confused by the length of the contract and as opposed to the money. I mean, even if it was 10 years at 330, Harper gets what he wants. He's the highest paid player. He breaks the record, whatever.
Mhm.
If that's really what his pension was. But you're right. He's a Vegas kid, and I thought it made more sense. I mean, this deal is better than what San Francisco offered, 5 years. Then he's only 31. He could opt out and be a free agent again. I mean, it made more sense.
Well,
Something just seems a little askew to me. I'm just confused by that length of contract. That's all.
and Harper, if you look at his stats, he's played extremely well in Citizens Bank Park. He's got really, really good numbers there. And the Phillies are young. They had their stretch of, I think they won 5 division titles, when they got to the World Series in '09. And they've taken a step back. They've rebuilt. And I think having Harper on the team now, other free agents may start coming there as they build that roster. So it all comes down to pitching. Baseball is all about pitching. They got a really good kid. This Aaron Nola seems to be stepping it up as an ace for them.
And they started paying him too. They re-upped him
Yeah.
and gave him the dough he was looking
So
for.
I think the Phillies are making a statement here that they're back. And the NL East is really, I think the last couple of years, the Braves have just been stockpiling, and I think they're ready now to show.
Yeah, they're a young team.
They
too.
are, and they're good.
They're
You
a
know,
young
the
team.
Mets we talked about have kind of rebuilt. I still don't see the Mets. Yeah, obviously they have a super 1-2-3 pitching combination. They got to stay healthy.
Yeah. But
So
you already see what's happening. Lowry's already, he's already on the bench.
right,
He's injured.
yeah.
I just don't see the Mets making any kind of run at all. I mean, yeah, they got a great pitching staff, but I look around the field. I don't see much improvement at all. I mean,
I don't particularly think the Mets are going to be all that competitive this year. I think they'll be a hell of a lot better than they've been the last couple of years. Obviously, they have this new GM, and I just think the Mets are maybe a year or two away. They got to decide what they want to do with Syndergaard and DeGrom. They have to either lock these guys up.
and Wheeler too.
When Wheeler's come on,
He's a potentially ace of the team
he is.
at some point.
He's pitched well. He had arm troubles early, and he's obviously been pitching well.
Yeah.
And but I think the NL East is now formidable, or getting there. And I just think we had a lead with Bryce Harper. It's the biggest story.
Well, there was also another story, and I wanted to bring this up because it was close. The Rockies signed this Nolan Arenado to
I
an
think
8-year, $260 million contract. Now, listen, I'll concede I'm more of an American League
guy.
knowledge-based guy as opposed to the National League. But is this guy worth that kind of money? I know he's got 6 Gold Gloves in a row and so forth, but
He is worth the money. He is. He's a top 5 stud in the league now, and he's a really good ball player. I have no issue with the Rockies locking him down, especially playing in Colorado.
I'm not dismissing his talent. But I
No.
mean, that was a kind of a shocker out of the blue.
Like you said, he's got 6 Gold Gloves, and the guy can hit. He's been injury free, and I think that's a great deal by Colorado, letting him not walk out the door. So obviously, Trout is eligible. I think after the 20 season, not this coming year. So Trout's got one more year with the Angels. I'd be stunned now that Harper. Now Trout is a South Jersey Philly guy. He's an Eagle fan.
Well,
he's a
that's-
Philly sports guy. How the hell do you fit him in? Because if you're paying Harper this, Trout is the best ball player unequivocally in baseball. So I'm going to lead towards the Angels aren't going to let him out the door, especially with Arenado getting a deal like that. Mike Trout then is obviously got to be the highest paid player once. So I think the Angels. I'd be very surprised if they let him out the door. I really would. He's a hell of a ball player, Mike.
Oh, no question. He's going to be.
But baseball, let's be real on the money. Baseball has had record revenues, and the dough is there. The owners, as cheap as they are perceived, and this collusion talk, and the fact that Harper and Machado are signing these big deals, and spring training has already started. There's something to it. But the fact that the money is so ginormous.
Are they
Listen,
making that kind of money?
They are. Major League Baseball, again, they're streaming their games, these TV contracts, and the fact that people still show up at the ballpark. So I'm not surprised by the money, and they have to spend this money too now.
I gotta
Right?
say, I'm a little surprised by the money. I didn't, like I said, I don't think the ballparks are filling up like they used to. But you're right; it's all TV money,
Right.
advertising,
The
merchandising,
streaming and
I
everything
guess,
else. So.
I guess.
But everybody's locked in pretty much. I'm sure there's some straggler free agents out there, but nobody near the kind of dough that Machado and Harper just signed for, and
No.
and Arenado we got to put up there because that's a big contract.
Oh my God, that caught me off guard a little bit. All right, so we covered baseball. Let's move on to football real quick here because I wasn't even aware of this. A couple of things happening in the NFL. I mean, we'll get to the Robert Kraft saga in a second, but Jason Witten coming back?
Sure. So I actually found out from my 12-year-old son Sean, who is now a Cowboy fan. So he actually texted me in the afternoon. I was at my day job, and I heard that Witten's coming back. So Witten is obviously has the itch to play. He was up in the booth.
And did very well in the booth, by the way.
I thought
actually.
he did too, and I also heard some other people saying he didn't do so well. But
Thought
that's
he did
for
pretty
another
good.
debate. But I think him coming back on a one-year deal, like I said, he's had the itch to play. He can only help the Cowboys. Listen, I mean, he's the all-time leader in receptions, games played for the Cowboys. Even though they have a couple young good kids, this Dalton Schultz kid looked good at the end of the year. But the Cowboys, Witten catches 70 balls. And the Cowboys tight ends, nowhere near that production. And it can only help with his chemistry with Dak. It can help in the locker room.
But doesn't this reek of some sort of desperation by the Cowboys to actually, they feel like they're not in front page news. It's the Jerry Jones ego thing, and
No, I don't.
and you went out, but they went out and they got the wide receiver,
Amari Cooper.
right, Cooper for a number one pick and so forth. So that's going to take 70 passes a year, assuming Witten catches 70. That's 30 less than Cooper's going to get, and I don't know. It just seems a little odd to me.
I think this is all Jason Witten. I think like I said, he had an itch to play. He's got one more year maybe. He's in phenomenal shape. I'm a fan of his.
Oh, big time
and the
fan
character.
of his.
We need some character guys in there because of course the Cowboys are in the news every week, and what are they in the news for? They have these degenerates on the team. This David Irving gets suspended again for the third consecutive year.
Randy Gregory.
And good riddance to David Irving, and good luck to any team that wants to sign that piece of garbage. He was a talented kid, but goodbye, out.
And how many strikes are they going to give this kid Gregory, too?
I mean, I would like to talk about Randy Gregory. So, Randy Gregory came out in 15. Nebraska was a first-round talent. In fact, he may have been considered a top 5 pick. I read an article on him recently, and again, I didn't know Randy Gregory and what his story was, and obviously he can't stop smoking weed, and he deals with this anxiety. But for something, I just can't put a finger on it, that he's not a bad guy. And he actually was productive for this past season. And don't get me wrong, the guy's been suspended like Irving countless. This is actually his fourth suspension.
And that means he's going to have to sit at least a whole full
He's going to have to
season.
sit another year. But the kid's 25. I'd peg him 26. I don't know what to say on it, really.
All right. Well, the fact that you're giving him the benefit of the doubt when you get four knocks on you.
And trust me, those that know the Monahan brothers don't really give the benefit of the doubt. But it sounds like the Cowboys are sticking with him, and we'll see where that goes. So,
all right.
They're in the news, and unfortunately, the Cowboys are in the news for a lot of the wrong reasons. And
well, I think
I'm
Witten's
awfully tired
being in the news for a good reason because he's a good player and he's going to the Hall of Fame. There's no question about that. But all right.
Yep.
So listen, if we stick with the NFL, and there's not a lot more to talk about with the Robert Kraft thing, other than like he was formally charged and so forth, and pleads not guilty, of course.
But we did talk about what the Post and the Daily News, which we didn't mention, and I actually found out what their headlines were, which I thought were pretty funny.
Okay.
Number one, I think it was the Post, Inflategate. I thought that was funny, from Deflategate. But this is the best one, I think.
Right.
Kraft American Sleaze. I thought it was a great headline.
All right, that's not bad. You know, actually, I was trying to think of something with Kraft and cheese, and I couldn't come up with that. So I'll give them that. But I still think
we're going with tailgate. That's our moniker.
I think your tailgate was brilliant.
Thank you.
I think it was brilliant.
Thank you very much.
So listen, there's going to be a lot more that comes out. Listen, if they got him on film, then they got him on film. I mean, I don't know.
Right, but
we don't know any details more than we did last week.
But it's no different. Again, he's an NFL owner. At some point, this is going to be, old news. Is he going to get suspended? Of course he's going to get suspended.
Which means
Does
nothing.
This go to the level of like a Jim Irsay driving drunk, high on pills, and, the guy's an alcoholic, this, that, and the other thing? I mean, Irsay got a 6-game suspension. Jerry Richardson was the owner of the Carolina Panthers. He was about to get nailed with some sexual harassment. So what does he do? He sells the team.
Well, here's the difference between those things.
My point about Kraft, that he's not the only sleazy owner.
I know, but let me just touch on this.
Okay.
I mean, he's implicated in this. His name is tied with it, and Florida has this thing. If this ties down, this is more than just him going to get a back rub. They're talking human trafficking and so forth. And I'm not saying he's implicated or he's part of that, but it all ties together, and that brings a little bit more to the forefront of that the fact that he's involved in this.
Right. So not only is he involved in it, I thought something came out on his timeline. So here is the NFL Patriots owner the day of the Kansas City championship game at Kansas City. So, he's in Palm Beach, has Hobson, his butler from Arthur, drive him in his blue Bentley over to the strip mall.
The park vitamin.
The park vitamin. So, what is, listen, again, he's 77 years old. We talked about, listen, if I got $6 billion, they're coming to me.
Well, let's talk about the timeline, because not only the day of the game,
right?
He was there the day before at night,
yep.
And then he was there in the morning before he went to Kansas City for the game. So it must have been some back rub he got.
Absolutely, no doubt. So the material with Kraft is obviously going to be there for a while.
Yep.
At some point, this will be settled and it'll fade to black at some point. But we're still waiting for Mr. Big's name to come out on the list, and
well, they came out with a couple of big names, couple of corporate guys,
right.
A hedge fund guy, a city group guy.
I get it, but I got to think there's a big name athlete or something involved, and stay tuned for that. It's going to be more fodder.
Oh, it's going to be in the news forever until it comes out. That's all, But of course, he pleaded not guilty.
But for all the New England haters, this is great material, and
but it does not diminish their legacy.
No, and we made that point.
So.
We made that point, and we stick to it.
So, okay, enough on that. The NFL. Let's touch base on hockey, because I got some feedback from some of our fans that we don't touch on hockey very much.
Right. But we're big hockey fans here at Sports with Mono and Mono. Make no mistake.
All right, so we're kind of partial, or at least we've been we're hockey fans first, but I was a little confused by this whole Rangers thing. They traded Hayes and they traded Zuccarello.
Right.
I'm a little confused. Why? I mean,
well, Zuccarello makes sense. So listen, he's been a great Ranger. It was a great signing, but his contract's up at the end of the year, and they're not going to re-sign him for the dough he was making. I think he was making over $4 million a year. He's been a productive Ranger. And I think that deal makes sense. I mean, they sent him down to Dallas. I believe they got a second or third round pick. However, if Dallas advances to, say, second, third round, they can get a first round pick. If Zuccarello signs with Dallas in the offseason,
they get a pick.
That would cement a first round pick too. Now, what's ironic is Zuccarello, I think his first game, got smacked in the wrist or blocked a shot. He's already out for 4 to 5 weeks. The Kevin Hayes thing. Kevin Hayes has been a good Ranger.
But a young guy too.
He's a young guy.
He's pretty young.
Yeah, but he had value, and so they shipped him off to Winnipeg. And who did they get in return? One of our all-time biggest scumbags, and in our opinion, was Claude Lemieux, a great hockey player. But when you played against Claude Lemieux,
you hated him.
Yeah, we made a lot of different.
Well, when it first came up,
nice
it said they get Brendan Lemieux. You immediately go, oh, Mario Lemieux.
Praying to God he's the son of Mario.
Right.
But the fact they got this kid who is probably like his father, feisty.
He is, actually.
Right.
I saw an interview with him.
So I think that's a good move. And they also got a first-round pick.
I know, but let me just throw this in. I mean, I know they're not, they're on the brink of not making the playoffs.
They're not making the playoffs.
But couldn't they have made a run? I mean, was it worth, sending these guys off and not throwing in the towel so the season's done? Is that what they've conceded?
They're not mathematically eliminated yet, but the season is there's only, I'm going to say, 12 games maybe left, something along those lines.
All right.
I think it falls in. Again, this Jed Gorton is the Rangers GM. He sent the letter to the Ranger fans well over a year ago. And they're just stockpiling picks, and I think it's the right move for the Rangers.
All right, I just thought it was a little early to throw in the towel. I mean, they could have gone on a run. Let's say Lundqvist gets hot, and they win their last 10 out of 12. And
I'm glad you brought up Lundqvist. The Rangers are not going to win the Stanley Cup with Henrik Lundqvist. If we didn't win it in 2015, we're not winning it. We can't trade him. He's untradeable. He's got a no-trade clause. We owe him a ton of money. Nobody's going to pick up this money. So Lundqvist has probably got a couple of years left. I really like the young kid, though, they have, this Alexander Georgiev. He's been getting a lot of time spelling Lundqvist this year.
Well, he's definitely the goalie of the future.
We'll see, yeah. And I think the Rangers have actually another goalie in the system of worth. But this Georgiev kid, I saw an interview with him a couple weeks ago, actually on his birthday, and he had a 55-save night. Great kid, great demeanor.
Yeah.
And I just think that's
How old is
he? Kid, 23.
23, perfect.
Yeah. So I think the Rangers are doing the right thing, and they're rebuilding. And let's see, 2 or 3 years from now. I think David Quinn, the new coach, has done a good job.
I love it.
And I actually think they've won a lot more games than I anticipated them to win this year.
But I agree with you. I mean, if the Rangers didn't win with Lundqvist, when they played the Kings in the final, that was their opportunity.
That was it.
Yeah. So I think it's time to move on from that. His legacy is going to be secure. He's probably going to go to the Hall of Fame.
There's just one distinction I'll say for all our Ranger fans. There's Mike Richter. And now you can put Lundqvist along with Eddie Giacomin on, in number 2 or 3 of all-time greatest Ranger goalies.
Yep.
Until they win a Stanley Cup. Mike Richter is he's on Mount Rushmore.
Right, and Lundqvist isn't going to be around when they get back into the forefront and compete again in this kind of league.
Yep.
So listen, one other quick thing, and this isn't New York bias here, but it was big news when Tavares played his first game back on Long Island after, and I'm going to say disappointing the Islander fans, even though, it's been a rough few years for them, with the owners and whatever.
More than a few years.
But, Tavares' first return, I mean, he really took it on the chin. Boy, they gave him the business yesterday. I mean, they were tailgating like it was an NFL game yesterday.
They circled this date, that's for sure, of his return.
Now, how do you feel? Do you feel this is justified?
I do. I think the Islander fans have every right to lane-based him.
Because why? Because he said he wanted to be an Islander for life, so that meant that he was committed to this franchise?
Well, we just talked about the Rangers and dealing Zuccarello and Hayes at the deadline and things like that. How about John Tavares? And again, I can't get in the kid's mind, right? He's been a loyal Islander during his time there.
9 years.
Right, he's been their best player, representing the franchise very well. However, if you're going to leave, don't you think you should give the courtesy to the Islander management last year? And why wouldn't he want to go for a 2-month rental to go maybe win the Stanley Cup? Now you're a complete free agent. So the point is the Islanders didn't get anything for Tavares. And he's such a good ball player or hockey player They could have got something for him. So now they go into the off season in the summer, and I got a couple Islander fans, and you know what they said? He's not coming back, and I'm like, he's coming back. Why wouldn't he come
I
back?
thought for sure he was coming back.
And I was actually sitting with my good friend Jay in Oakland, New Jersey, in the summer, and it was about 4 hours to go till the deadline where either he was coming back or had to make that decision, and I was still of the belief he was going to come back. And and to Jay's credit, he's like, nope, he's out the door. And I said, I don't think so. And lo and behold, 3 hours later, the signing. But then that's where the picture comes out of Johnny T in his Toronto Maple Leafs pajamas as a kid.
Okay, but
I never knew that.
But why do you want to hold it against this guy when maybe he wasn't aware that the Maple Leafs were interested?
I am not.
My
point is, I'm not holding against Tavares. You asked the question: do the Islander fans have a right to really get on Tavares? I think absolutely. They had fun with it. They really they gave him the business last night.
Yeah, rubber snakes. And,
and the Islanders took it to the Leafs. I think the Islanders were pumped up too, and I think the final last night was 6-1.
Yeah.
But I'd also like, in talking about the Islanders, what a difference having great management and coaching is. So you got Lou Lamoriello now running that organization.
You bet.
And you got Barry Trotz now as the head coach.
You bet.
You do not be surprised with all the young talent the Islanders have that they are going to be in the mix. I'm not saying this year. There's still a couple formidable teams there.
And I think that's why the Islander fans are so upset going, with those guys, Lamoriello and Trotz in the mix. We were right on the verge here, and this guy could have led us to the promised land kind of thing
the
again.
Islanders are having a great year, and they're moving back to Long Island, and they're redoing the Coliseum, and I think good things are ahead for all our Islander fans.
I agree.
Yeah.
But that was interesting, though. I just wanted to make sure we touched on that. Isn't Tavares wear number 61?
He wore number 91. And
91.
And I was actually just going to bring that up. I actually heard a caller on the radio today saying, you know what, the Islanders should retire number 91. Right? And I'm saying to myself, really? John Tavares? And then I caught myself. You know who wore 91 for the New York Islanders on their 4 Stanley Cup teams? They acquired them from the Los Angeles Kings.
Butch Goring?
Butch Goring, who was instrumental in
at least 1 or 2 of the cups.
And I think he was on all 4. I actually do. He may be 3. Yeah. I'm going to say 4. But when he said that, why don't they hang up Goring's jersey so you don't have to worry about Tavares ever having his jersey raised in the island. So
well, we were just touching base. I mean, from an Islanders perspective, I think he finished. He's got 7th in all-time team goals and 4th or 5th or something in assists. So he gave his heart and soul to the Islanders.
He did.
I mean, I just wish they treated him a little better.
No, I'll go on. I'll say I think the Islander fans once again had every right, and they really gave it to him.
All right, all right. So listen, we're getting close to wrapping up here, but listen, obviously March Madness is coming right down the road here, and
a Big East tournament first. I actually like the conference tournaments prior to the March Madness. And
I do too, even though I don't think they mean a heck of a lot. I mean, Duke's going to go into as a number 1 seed whether they win the ACC tournament or not.
But I think it helps, and as the 64 teams are announced, you get to see a little bit more of the teams that may really make some noise, and therefore it could probably help on your seedings and things like that. So the Big East will be at the Garden probably in a week or 2.
Yeah.
We always enjoyed that back in the day.
And I tell you, I keep watching. One day St. John's plays a great game. The next day they look horrible. It's kind of strange. So. Right. But Gonzaga's, right now the number 1 team.
Well deserved, I think.
And listen, you know what their record is in going into the March Madness. I mean, they always seem to get at least to the Sweet 16 guaranteed.
Yep.
A lot of times.
Elite 8.
And yep. One time Final Four,
yeah,
right?
I think they got to the championship game and lost.
But I like I said, of all these teams and so forth, and I'm going to say my early favorite team right now, and because I love the coach and I think they got a lot of talent, is Virginia. I think they may not get a number one seed because of Duke,
Man,
but I'd like them to at least make some noise in the tournament.
well, I'm gonna go with if they didn't win it with Ralph Sampson, they're never gonna win it type of thing.
I
So
don't
Virginia,
know.
come tournament time, I really.
All right, we'll see.
Again, I'm a believer that what's happened in the past doesn't really affect what happens in the future when it comes to sports. And
But I like Tony Bennett a lot as
good
a
coach,
coach and
but,
so forth.
but Virginia just has disappointed many, many times in the past. So I'd be leery a little bit on
All
that.
right, I'm just going to
Having
say
them
I think
go
this
too
is.
far.
I think they've turned the corner. I think this
Okay.
is a team that with that coaching and so forth, they could make some noise. I'm not saying they're
We'll
going
see.
to. Not saying they're going to win.
We'll see. We'll see.
But anyway, so that's some good stuff we covered here tonight. And let's, like I said, before we sign off, of course, what do we do?
We thank our sponsors. Absolutely. Lynch Toyota,
Yep,
right?
of Manchester, Connecticut.
Correct. I think it's
Harley Davidson of Utica.
of course, and of course Di Filippi's Bakery out of Monticello, New York. And when you go into Di Filippi's, if you ask for Carmela, the owner, or anybody there, you mention Sports with Mono and Mono, and you can get a 10% discount. They make great pastries, great pies, and just a
Yep.
wonderful bakery up there.
So listen, again, Steve, this is our moniker is now officially Sports with Mono e Mono, and our email is sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com. So if you guys have comments and so forth you want to share with us,
Please do.
certainly we'll read them and we'll talk about them on the air.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yep.
So thanks for joining us, everybody. Steve,
Thanks, Jim.
good stuff, and
Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week.
okay.